Hey guys, welcome to another confusion video. Now you might remember me announcing a tutorial called Lightsaber. Now this video is not really a part of that tutorial, but more like a bonus video. A bonus video where I show how I texture the lightsaber's body. Now that is because I thought some of you guys might be interested in 3Dcoat. Now 3Dcoat is sort of, no, it's not really similar to Substance, but both 3Dcoat and Substance Painter use something that is called PBR, which stands for Physical Based Render. And therefore they're using physical based materials. And those make hard surface texturing a breeze. And I want to show you actually how easy it is in a very short amount of time to get some pretty decent results. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Okay, so first let me reload the clean lightsaber here. So, before you start texturing, you want to make sure that you have proper UVs. And in my case, I just use the automatic UV unwrap of 3Dcoat, which gives you a pretty decent result. Around the edges, we still have some problems here, but I didn't care now because we won't go that close to the lightsaber's body. So I thought it's okay. Just make sure you have your UV set up, and then you want to decide on how high you want to go with the texture resolution. In my case, my composition layer in Fusion is about 5K and the final output is 2K. So I decided to go with a 4K texture here. This of course makes working in 3Dcoat a little bit slow. Okay, but let me show you actually how it works with the smart materials, is what it's called in 3Dcoat. We have a bunch of fancy materials and we want to go to the metals. And now we're gonna make a decision here. What kind of metal do we want to use for the lightsaber's body? And I already decided that I want to use this one here. And as soon as you click one of these smart materials, 3Dcoat tells you that it's going to calculate the curvature. And the curvature is a map that is used internally by 3Dcoat to sort of generate those worn out edges, etc., etc. 3Dcoat also asks you to calculate an ambient occlusion layer, which is required for the smart materials. Of course, you want to click OK. You don't want to click cancel. Don't do that. So you click OK, and then you get another dialog here where you can choose how you actually want to calculate the ambient occlusion. Do you want to use a hemisphere or do you want to use a sphere? Now, if you choose the hemisphere, it will basically look like you have a light from the top, so the bottom will become darker. For me, it didn't really matter so much. I didn't really care so much. I just chose sphere and light count 2048, which is pretty high. And keep in mind that 3Dcoat is utilizing the GPU to calculate the ambient occlusion. That's why it's actually pretty fast. Now it saves the texture. This is actually what takes the longest. Okay, and now we have our ambient occlusion baked here into the layer. You can see it. And beneath it, you can see the curvature map. And as I said before, the curvature map is used internally by 3Dcoat. That's why it's actually deactivated and set to automatic. You can of course turn it on, and then you get sort of like a cavity map. If you want to have a better visualization, I always do this. Of the ambient occlusion, you can press the 2 on your keyboard, and then you get the diffuse view. Okay, this is what the ambient occlusion looks like. Now, if I go closer in, you can see that actually it's rather dirty. And what you could do is you can go into textures and adjust and smooth current layer. But of course you have to be on the ambient occlusion layer, and again, and you choose smooth current layer, and we crank this up. Since this is a very high, this is a 4K map, we want to crank the degree up to 1 and repeat count to 10. Let's see what happens. Hit OK, and you should be seeing these edges here getting blurred. Okay, that was rather strong, but it's still okay. We can later still utilize Fusion's ambient occlusion if we need. For now, that's okay. So I'm gonna go back to the smooth shade view. And after I applied the material here, two things happened, or basically two things popped up. The first one is this preview options window here, and this smart preview window. Now this smart preview window basically allows you to preview your chosen material onto your object. I like to make this thing huge and basically cover the whole object. And you might wonder why this doesn't look so nice like here in this preview window. Now that's because I have only the diffuse channel activated. So now if I would apply this texture, it would only apply to the diffuse, to the color. Now I want to apply to the normal channel as well, and of course also to the specularity. And then you have this window here. This is basically a window that allows you to realign the way your texture is projected onto your object. You can see you have a texture here. If I don't hover over it, you can see that there's a texture, a subtle texture on it. And by adjusting these, you can reposition it, you can rescale the texture size. This is rather complicated here. It's not really easy to control using these tools here. But there's also another way you can control the alignment of the texture, and this is by right-clicking on this yellow dot here. Now, if you click on that yellow dot, you get this gizmo, and that gizmo allows you to rotate and move around and scale around. I think this is the move and this is the scale. Yeah, this is the scale. For now, let me just apply this material to our first layer. I'm going to create a layer and I'm going to rename this to Metal 1. And what I'm going to do now is, instead of using the brush, I just use the fill tool. Make sure you uncheck this use color albedo tolerance checkbox. It's usually turned on by default. And then you just hit layer. And now 3Dcoat will fill your whole object with this texture. Now for perfect control, we could use several layers for different metals, and then we could just create masks, layer masks, in order to apply those different metals to different areas here. In order to save recording time and memory, as I'm using 4K maps here while recording audio as well, I will try to just do it on the fly. Sometimes this window is hard to pick. So I could, for example, choose a different metal now. So the next metal I want to have is something clear, a clear metal, something like this perhaps. Let's see what else we have. What about this one here? Yeah, that's maybe not too shabby here. It's really clean, but let's see. So I want to apply this one now to those two horizontal objects. And the first thing I want to do is I want to remove the perspective by clicking this, by switching to orthographic. Oops. And I'm just going to choose a different brush here. And now it's saving. And I don't need this preview now. Let me just make this a little smaller. I wish there would be a hotkey to deactivate this preview window here. Maybe there is one, I don't know. And then I'm gonna go to the brush and I'm gonna choose this rectangle here. And you wanna make sure that you uncheck the ignore back faces, because we wanna project through here. Okay, now I'm gonna pull this here. We want to make sure we got these objects. Ah, okay. So if you keep adding to your normal map, you can do the following. You can go in here and then we say uncheck the additive painting. And now you should be good to go, and it's not. Well, with 3Dcoat, the thing is, I never know if it's a bug or if it's just I don't know how to use it. Okay, so let's just be precise here. That's another reason why you should use layers, because then you would avoid this kind of problems. But let's be precise here. I'm just gonna try to get it right at once. Something like this. Okay, and on the other side as well. And then we could probably make these also. Another option you want to check is this border width here. Okay, that's better. Yeah, you can see now this normal map is kind of creating this edge around here, but it's actually not bad. And then here as well, let's make this part and this part clean. That didn't work nicely. Now again, this is not perfect and it's rather quick and dirty, but for the project that or for the tutorial Darksaber, this is totally fine. And let's see what this looks like. Didn't project through for some reason. Okay, now it did. Maybe I had to cover a little bit more area. And let's maybe get this part as well. Okay. And next I want to have something goldish or something very dark. Let's see if this is dark here. This doesn't look so nice. Okay, now this is not as dark as I wanted to have it. So what I do is, for now, I'm gonna apply this metal here. And here. Okay, make it dark here and this one as well. And now I also want to darken this, call this grip. And for that, actually, I can create another layer. And then what I do is I cover this whole thing to get something like this. And then I'm just gonna remove using the eraser tool. And let me ignore back faces is on, okay. And I'm just gonna remove this inner part here. Sort of like it's a different material, well, almost the same, but or actually, you know what? I'm gonna undo this. This is good as it is. So I'm gonna collapse this down, merge down, and then I create another layer. And this time I'm going to close the smart materials. And I'm just gonna use the diffuse channel now, the color channel. And I'm gonna try now to actually darken this. Oh yeah. So I'm gonna darken this inner ring, something like this. Oh, ignore was not on. Something like this. And there was another one here. Same here. You can move this thing by holding space, just like in Photoshop. Oh my God, I didn't want to even mention Photoshop. I don't want to mention Adobe products. They're mean. Subscription. And those buttons, basically, I don't need to worry now because I will completely take care of these in Fusion. So we can just leave them. What we can do now is I can reduce the opacity a little bit. Let's see how this, oops, that was not a rectangle. Undo this. I'm going to choose the rectangle. This time I'm going to uncheck again because I want to project through. And I want to cover this whole thing just to darken it globally with the buttons. Darken it a little bit. Okay, that's not too shabby. Something is wrong with my display. Oh, whatever. And I want to try to actually take another smart material, the golden one. And again, I'm going to collapse this to save memory. And now I want to try applying some gold to this. Now, for this, I think, yeah, the problem is it will add to the normal map. So let me see how the if we can change the texture, for example here, I actually want those lines to be vertical. This looks a little strange for some reason. It should look golden, but it looks very dull. And even though this has nothing to do with the color, I guess. Okay, I go to a new layer, and that looks a little better. I guess it didn't override the specularity. I don't know why, but okay, let's just keep going with this one here. Although I think that I'm not sure. Whatever. Okay, so I'm gonna apply this now to, let's close this down here, to this ring. Strange. It doesn't look so golden. It looked a little bit better before when I did this. And I also want to give a little gold to this part here, just to loosen up all this thing. Although I have to say this is actually the dark saber, so it shouldn't be too colorful. So let's do this here as well. I don't like actually the buttons, but okay. For now, let's go with this one here. What we could do is now from this gold layer here, I could reduce the opacity to something like this. And let's go back to the perspective view here, and let's see how this actually looks rendered. So 3Dcoat has its own preview renderer. And I don't know if you've heard, if you know 3Dcoat, if you've heard that 3Dcoat will actually be getting the connection to RenderMan, which is pretty cool. Yeah, setting the light in 3Dcoat is a little bit cumbersome. It's always good to have a highlight like on this kind of parts. Yeah, okay, but you get the picture. You see how quickly we could texture this this lightsaber here. And of course, it was quick and dirty. Now, if you want to have it really clean for some really close-up shots or for some product visualization or something like that, of course, you need to work much cleaner. But anyway, I think for the confusion tutorial, I think this is better than what I had before. If you watch the walkthrough, you can see me making the excuse that this is not a texturing tutorial, so excuse me for the miserable looking texture. Now, no excuses no more. I mean, I was thinking about it and I said, okay, Vito, you know what? You need to deliver quality here. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed this little texturing session. In the coming episodes, we're going to import this lightsaber into Fusion and going to start some compositing. So, my name is Vito. I'll see you soon. Until then, enjoy what you're doing. Oh, by the way, if you want more Confusion action, why don't you support me on Patreon? You will get all kinds of swag.